Welcome to the Beyond the Bestseller podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Schupnecht, and today's guest is Cathy Derksen, author of Grit and Tenacity. Welcome, Cathy.
Thank you so much for having me, Kelly.
So, you and I met a few weeks ago as part of a speaking community of speakers, and I was really excited to learn about your book. Uh, and then before we started recording, you told me that you actually have 18 books. So this is going to be, we could talk all day, I guess. But let's start with Grit and Tenacity. And since that was the one that had led me to you in the first place, and then you can tell me more about the other books. But tell me about Grit and Tenacity and why you wrote it.
Yeah, so basically all of my books are anthologies. So they're all, I've written one chapter in all of them, but with Grit and Tenacity, I call myself the curator. So I created the title and theme. I brought together 20 women from around the world, each sharing their own journey. And so that book is focused on, the whole title is Grit and Tenacity, Women Transforming Leadership in Business and Community. So all of the women are sharing that journey they've been through, how they've stepped into being a leader, and how they're creating impact, whether it's in their business, in their community, in their families, all of the above, and really kind of looking at how women are shifting leadership.
Okay, nice. So all of your books you said are anthologies. So how did you get, what was the first? Like, how did you get into this kind of approach to publishing?
Yeah, it was around 2019 was when I got into the first one. It was a local group here that had been doing a few books like that. And I'd been aware of their books, but hadn't really felt like it was something I needed to do. Like writing and publishing had never been on my radar as something that I was going to do in my career. But they had a book come along that was called Emotional Intelligence, Mental Health Matters. And at that point, I had been through a divorce, a complete career change. I had two teenagers along the way, leaving an abusive marriage, leaving a toxic work environment. And I felt that my journey, my story was something that could help other women going through that. And at that time, that was really my only vision of why I should do this. I was working a job at the time. I wasn't looking for visibility or marketing anything. It was just I really felt a calling to share my journey. And since then, as you mentioned, I've now got 18 books under my belt, and many of them were other people's projects that I was just one of the authors in. And so much of it is just that realizing that our stories are so powerful, and that I think it's, especially as women, I'm sure guys have similar experiences, but especially as women, I think that we see those role models, we see those examples, we start seeing ourselves in the potential of what other people have come through. So that's really why I've now focused my whole business. So like I said, I've gone from not even seeing this as part of my long-term goals to now my whole life is focused on creating these opportunities for people to share their story, share their journey, lift and inspire each other, and really on a global scale. All of my books are international projects, and yeah, it just becomes really inspiring to hear the stories and to see the impact that it has both on sharing our story, but then also as an entrepreneur, especially, what can that do for your business, your visibility, your confidence, your
Yeah,
possibilities?
yeah, absolutely. So how many of the 18 books are your projects and versus other people's projects that you contributed to?
Yeah, so far I've published 7.
Seven. Okay. So 11 of them are. So is it like how did you get into, it's like a circle of people that are doing these kind of anthology kind of type books?
Well, it's kind of funny because really one of the things I say too is these projects really open up that doors that obviously were always there, but you never even saw that door before. So it wasn't even like it was an inkling I should go there. You didn't even see the door. And then you get into publishing. And one of the things I do love about anthologies is that every book is its own community. So
Yeah.
every book has my books, I always focus on around 20 people per book. And so it becomes its own little community where you're meeting the people, you're getting to know them, you're working on a project together. So in a way, you're amplifying your network by these other 20 people that are in the book with you. And because it tends to be a process that goes for a few months, so you really do have those opportunities to connect with each other, learn what you're each doing. And I found too, especially when you're looking at speaking opportunities, as an author, those doors open, again, doors you'd never seen before. So as I got finished doing, my first 3 books were with the same group. And then from there, I just started getting invited into other opportunities. And every book is on a different theme. So you're kind of presenting your journey or part of your life based on those themes of those books. And at one point, I was involved in a couple different books at the same time. And one was a great, very organized. The publisher was really, communicated well. Everything went smoothly. And the other one, I don't want to say anything too negative, but it really was turning into a nightmare.
Yeah.
And I was kind of in this position thinking this should be fun and easy and doable and accessible. And I thought, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So it really was
Yeah.
kind of this intuitive hit of, I love doing this. I get a lot of value from everyone I do. I need to be bringing this to a wider community. And here we are.
Yeah. So is that kind of that experience is what made you say like, okay, I'm gonna do this myself. I'm gonna lead one of these projects.
Yeah, yeah. And
Oh,
basically, I've got
cool.
a publishing team that I work with most of the time. And they're the ones that I loved at that point when I was in the middle of those two. And I proposed, let's collaborate. I'll do that front end where I create my titles and themes. I bring together my people. I support them in getting their chapters to a good first draft. And then we take the whole thing over to this publishing team that has all of the other expertise.
Okay. Nice. Nice. Are the books so I have a lot of questions. Are the books are they all self-published or have any of them been published traditionally or like a
It's
hybrid? Kind of
it's
what is
more
the
of the
approach?
hybrid model. So
Okay.
the publishing team that I work with are all experts in those publishing areas. So they have all the professional editors, proofreaders, they do all the formatting, they do all the work through Amazon, they create marketing materials for us. We do the Amazon book launch for all the books. We hit international #1 in many categories with all of the books. So it is a true hybrid that they're not the big boys of publishing, but it's done professionally.
Okay. Okay. Nice. And then one of the things the questions that came to my mind as you were talking was so you and I, again, we met in a group it's a speaking community for people who are public speakers or want to get into public speaking or like kind of work on their skills there. Um, and you mentioned that having a book opens up doors for speaking opportunities. So have you had that experience where because of your books, that's opened up the door for
Oh,
that?
definitely, definitely. Yes, yes.
Oh,
And actually, I
cool.
was talking to a person the other day, and her whole business is training and managing podcasters. So she's got like 500 podcasters that she supports. And she
Okay.
even said straight up, the first thing they look at in reviewing lists of guests, are they an author?
Okay.
And I
Well,
mean,
that's
if you're weighing 2 people, we got room to put somebody else on the schedule, they will pick the one who has author in their profile over
yeah,
someone who doesn't.
sure. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's one of my requirements, right? It's
Of course.
my podcast features all people or women with books. It's very specific. I always think it's funny when I'll get somebody who will reach out, it'll be a man, or specifically like a man with no book or a woman with no book. And I'm like, clearly you're not paying attention to the theme of the podcast. It does make it pretty easy when you're picking guests. It's like I'm very specific about what I want, but yeah. Yeah, so I know I always feel bad when I meet women who I think are amazing and I'd love to have on. I'm like, man, I wish you had a book.
Yeah, that's right. Go get a book and come back.
Yeah,
I can
yeah.
help her with that. And that's one of the
Yeah,
things I love about anthologies because, I mean, as entrepreneurs especially, I would say right now it is pretty much expected that we have
yeah,
author in our profile somewhere.
yeah.
And so with the anthology, it's a quicker, less expensive, pretty much done for you kind of process, which really makes it accessible to pretty much all of us to become published authors.
Yeah.
And I find for a lot of women, it's the anthology is kind of that first step. Get your
Yeah.
feet wet, get the feel of being a published author, and then go on and do your own solo book. But to just
Yeah.
jump into doing a solo book right off the bat with no experience, I think for most people becomes very overwhelming. And
Yeah.
quite often they
Mhm.
never get it finished.
Yeah. Yeah, even if even if you've done it before, it's overall it's the
Yeah.
beginning stage that's the hardest part because I've actually written multiple books, but most of them have been ghost written. And so to me that was always very easy, like organizing the process, starting the process of writing, doing it. But right now I'm working on, I should say, trying to work on my book project, right? And I just keep getting stuck on like that it's just getting into the rhythm of it that is so hard. Um so with these that you have all these the anthology thing is really interesting to me. I've actually never had I don't think I've ever had anyone on who's done that. Actually, I take that back. I had Terry Short on uh towards the beginning, and she has her own book, but then she has one that she did with people. I don't know if it's considered an anthology, but there was multiple authors. So maybe that counts. But I'm curious about like, so how did you've led several of these, seven of them, right? So how do you start that process of like deciding what the topic is going to be, who the contributors are going to be, what the topics they're covering, or like how do you kind of get past the like first idea to like start acting, like start doing?
Yeah, well, my books in general are focused on midlife women, especially, and sharing our journeys. And so some of the previous ones have been things like Embrace Courage, Midlife Awakening, Passion, Purpose, and Possibilities will be our next one that comes out. We had three that were focused kind of on this leadership focus with a few different twists on them. And I would say I take a lot of hints from people in my community, what people are asking about and talking about, and and even just from my own journey. Like Embrace Courage was the first one I did. And so in a way, it took courage for me to even step out onto that and just say, okay,
Yeah.
I'm doing this, I'm creating this book. I am going to bring 20 women from around the world who want to contribute to my book. Was a lot of courage. So
Yeah.
so I find quite often they're titles that come to me, and then of course I kind of, ask a few people, like, does this title sound good? Like one of the new ones that I'm just getting started with, I'm calling it From Inspiration to Success, an Entrepreneurial Journey.
Okay.
And that one will be open to men and women.
Okay.
And but kind of listening to people, what are people talking about? What's kind of the thing, and what's my journey that I like to show. And one of my other books right now is Inspired Metamorphosis, which
Ooh,
I think,
okay.
really hits a lot of people that have gone through any kind of big transformations, major shifts and pivots and things like that. So yes, I'm always just looking for those ideas. And one of the fun things too is that we can take this process into communities. So one of the other books that we just finished about a month ago was Leadership Unveiled.
Okay,
And
that's I
that,
just saw that one when I searched your name on Amazon. That was the first one
yeah,
that came up.
and that one is based, it's in the community of Leadership Global. So everyone in that book is a member of Leadership Global.
Okay.
So looking at that kind of idea, it becomes a marketing piece for the group, plus the opportunity to build community in the group, and the opportunity for each one of those people to become a published author. So,
Yeah.
so that's another kind of way that I take my books out into different communities, is by creating a book for that community.
Okay. I love it. Um, so, oh gosh, I just had another question for you, and I know what I was gonna say. I was like, what was I gonna ask next? I have like a million questions for you because this is like fascinating to me how you've done this and like the networking that you've done. And so I'm really curious. I don't usually ask this of my guests, but I'm curious about what your company is and what you do. So it is Inspired Tenacity the name of your company?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And kind of the big focus is around things that help midlife women step into new possibilities.
Okay.
Find that so many women, especially in their 50s and 60s, and 70s and 80s are really just feeling stuck and not knowing what am I supposed to do with the rest of my life. You know, they've either retired or they're getting close to retirement, or they're just at a point in life when their job is boring them, or they know they need something different. But, you know, our culture's kind of told us that after 50, we're old and obsolete and we should just curl up in a corner and disappear. Unless you're looking after the grandkids, we don't need to see you or hear from you, you know, that kind of idea. Whereas I would say, you know, 60 is a new 40, and we are really just getting started. I mean, I turned 61 this year, you know, so really starting brand new businesses based on what we love to do is really what a lot of us should be doing right now. And using that
Yeah.
expertise, using that community, using that wisdom, and doing what we love to do. So that's kind of the bigger picture of what I do at Inspired Tenacity. So the books are a big part of all of that. And then
Okay.
adding in retreats where we can get together. So one of the retreats we did in January, we actually went to New York City and had a billboard in Times Square for the Grit and Tenacity book. So
Nice.
we'll be doing more of that with my different books. I'm doing a writer's retreat in September for women just to
Ooh,
come together, and they can be writing their own book or just getting started or doing one of the anthologies, but really just coming together and talking about writing and supporting each other in that process. And then I'm also going to be creating a retreat that's more just let's get together and enjoy life. So
okay. Well, I'm going to throw my name in the hat for one of your anthologies. I would love to contribute to one of those.
great.
And also, I want to hear more about the retreats. I'm also working on a writing retreat because I have a community for writers.
Oh, cool.
So would love to just talk with you personally about that, and just maybe get notes from you or learn maybe attend one of yours and learn about that. So I love everything you're doing. Um, well, I'll link to Grit and Tenacity in the show notes, but also where else can listeners learn more about you or about any of your books or find out more about what you're doing?
Yeah, so my main website is inspiredtenacity.com. And there you can find all kinds of links to my previous books. There's a tab on my gifts for you. You can download free PDF copies of a few of my books. There's lists of my current projects you can get into. And so most of that information is there. LinkedIn is my main social media. So if you want to hang out and chat there, that's where you'll find me most of the time. And let's see what else. Where else will people find me? Yeah, that's kind of the best places. And even on Amazon, if you just Google my name, that you'll come up with the profile there.
All the books,
All of the
all
books.
the books. Yes. Yeah, it's quite impressive. Well, thanks, Cathy, for coming on and sharing your story and about your books. You seem like you have a lot going on and you're very community based, and I love seeing everything you're doing. So I hope you and I can stay in touch
Oh,
and
definitely,
connect you on
definitely.
that.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for
Great,
having me
great.
on.
Thanks.
Looking for a community of women writers to support and inspire you on your journey? Join the Author Power Circle. Connect weekly with fellow authors, stay accountable, and move your book forward in an encouraging community. Learn more at kellyshuckneck.com